We didn't officially break up, Howard.
Right.
You're still together?
I just thought it was time that I exercised my right to make a solo album, as the others had done. And then that was a massive hit.
Right.
And so I went, hang on a minute.
The Police dominated the charts, sold millions of records, and became global superstars. But behind the scenes, a toxic dynamic was tearing the band apart from within. What happened during the final days of the Police involved ego battles, creative conflicts, and personal betrayals so intense that the band members could barely stand to be in the same room together. The shocking truth about their breakup has remained largely hidden until now, when Sting, at 75, has finally opened up about the devastating moment that destroyed one of music's greatest partnerships. His revelations about the band's final recording sessions expose a group in complete meltdown, where success became a curse and friendship turned into warfare. The perfect storm. Success breeds destruction. By 1983, the Police had achieved everything a rock band could dream of. Their album Synchronicity was dominating charts worldwide. Every Breath You Take was becoming one of the most recognizable songs ever written, and their world tour was selling out stadiums across the globe. But this unprecedented success was creating an internal pressure cooker that would ultimately destroy the band. The warning signs had been building for years. Sting's growing dominance as the band's primary songwriter was creating a dangerous power imbalance that left Stewart Copeland and Andy Summers feeling increasingly sidelined. What had once been a collaborative partnership was becoming a dictatorship, with Sting calling the shots and his bandmates struggling to maintain their creative identity. Behind the scenes, the recording sessions for Synchronicity revealed just how fractured the band had become. Rather than working together in the studio as they once had, the three musicians were literally recording in separate rooms, avoiding each other whenever possible. Andy Summers later described the process as devastating. Basically, we weren't a band in the traditional sense anymore. We were three individuals pursuing our own agendas. The tension reached a breaking point during the creation of their biggest hit. Every Breath You Take would become one of the highest-earning songs of all time, but its creation was a nightmare of conflict and compromise. Sting had written the entire song and had a crystal-clear vision of how it should sound, leaving no room for input from his bandmates. Stewart Copeland's frustration was becoming impossible to contain. The drummer who had co-founded the band was watching his creative input diminish with each album. In later interviews, he revealed the depth of his resentment. It's ironic because every breath you take is so beautiful and smooth, but the process of making it was torturous. We were fighting like cats and dogs. The toxic triangle, when friendship becomes warfare. The dynamic between the three members of the Police had devolved into what Andy Summers called a toxic triangle. Sting and Stewart Copeland, once close friends and creative partners, were now engaged in an ongoing battle for control that made every interaction a potential conflict. The personality clashes that had once fueled their creative energy were now destroying them from within. Sting's meticulous, perfectionist approach to music clashed violently with Stewart's improvisational, free-spirited style. What had once been productive creative tension had become destructive personal warfare. Andy Summers found himself trapped in the middle, trying unsuccessfully to mediate between two alpha personalities who could no longer compromise. He later described the situation with painful clarity. They would lock horns, and it was like two alpha dogs fighting for control while I tried to mediate somehow. The recording studio, once a place of creative magic, had become a battlefield. Sessions were marked by arguments, walkouts, and long periods of hostile silence. Band members were avoiding each other so completely that they were scheduling separate studio time just to avoid confrontation. The breaking point came during their world tour supporting Synchronicity. Despite playing to massive crowds and earning millions of dollars, the band members were miserable. Stewart Copeland later revealed the moment he knew it was over. "We were playing stadiums. The crowds were massive, but we were miserable. I remember looking at Sting on stage and thinking, how much longer can we do this?" Sting's secret plan, the solo career conspiracy. While the Police were at the peak of their commercial success, Sting was secretly planning his escape. His desire to pursue a solo career wasn't just a creative whim, it was a carefully calculated strategy to break free from what he saw as the creative constraints of the band format. Behind the scenes, Sting was already exploring musical directions that had nothing to do with the Police's sound. He was listening to jazz, world music, and classical compositions, genres that had no place in the punk reggae fusion that had made the band famous. His bandmates were unaware of just how far his musical interests had diverged from their shared vision. The revelation of Sting's solo ambitions came as a devastating blow to Stewart and Andy, who had assumed they were building something permanent together. In his autobiography, Sting later admitted the calculating nature of his decision. "I began to feel like I had done everything I could within the Police. I wanted to explore other styles of music and challenge myself in new ways. What made the situation even more painful was Sting's growing resentment of his bandmates' contributions. The songs that had made them famous were primarily his compositions, and he was beginning to see Stewart and Andy as obstacles to his artistic vision rather than collaborators who enhanced it." The final performance, When Success Feels Like Failure. The Police's final performance together came at the end of their Synchronicity World Tour in 1984, but none of the band members knew it would be their last. The show that should have been a celebration of their incredible achievements instead became a painful reminder of how far they had fallen as friends and collaborators. Behind the scenes, the tour had been an exercise in professional obligation rather than artistic passion. The three musicians were going through the motions, delivering technically perfect performances while feeling emotionally disconnected from both the music and each other. The joy that had once defined their live shows had been replaced by cold professionalism. Sting's revelation about that final tour exposes just how toxic the situation had become. Despite earning millions and playing to hundreds of thousands of fans, he was counting down the days until it would end. The success that should have been fulfilling had become a prison that he desperately wanted to escape. The moment of truth came in a backstage meeting after one of their final shows. According to multiple accounts, the conversation was brief and businesslike. There were no emotional goodbyes or expressions of gratitude for what they had accomplished together. The band that had created some of the most passionate music of the 1980s ended with a whimper rather than a bang. Stewart Copeland later described the anticlimactic nature of their ending. By the end of the tour, all three members agreed it was time to part ways. It wasn't dramatic, it was just inevitable. The friendship that had launched one of music's most successful partnerships had died long before the band officially broke up. Sting's final confession, the truth about success and sacrifice. Now, at 75, Sting's recent revelations about the Police's breakup show a man who has had decades to reflect on his decisions and their consequences. His confession about what really ended the band reveals both regret and justification, painting a complex picture of artistic ambition versus personal loyalty. In his most candid interviews, Sting has admitted that the weight of the Police's success became unbearable. The pressure to continuously create hit songs, maintain their image, and manage their relationships had become a full-time burden that was affecting his mental health and artistic satisfaction. His confession is particularly revealing about the psychological toll of fame. Success is a strange thing. It doesn't fix your problems, it amplifies them. We were three men in our prime, under immense pressure to deliver, and it was emotionally draining. This admission shows how the very success that fans envied had become a source of misery for the band members. His solo career, which has earned him an estimated net worth of $550 million, came at the price of friendships that could never be fully repaired. The 2007 reunion tour, which grossed over $362 million, proved that the musical chemistry between the three men was still intact, but it also demonstrated that their personal relationships remained strained. Even decades later, the wounds from their original breakup hadn't fully healed. What do you think about Sting's decision to break up the Police at their peak? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more behind-the-scenes stories from music history. Thanks for watching.